Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Creative Future session here at Glasgow University. My name is Graham Park, and this is the programme where we talk to a variety of creatives from across the creative sector about their career and what they do now and the journey to get to where they are. Now, today we're joined by someone who I've worked with before many times, and his name is Colin McKevitt, and he comes from a company called Bajan, Coombs, who are digital media specialists. Colin, welcome to Glasgow University.
Great to be here. Thanks for inviting me along.
So, before we talk about you, just tell us what Bajan Coombs is and what you do.
Yeah, okay, so we're a production company with a little bit of specialism as opposed to just doing those usual videos. We kind of specialise in live streaming and engaging digital audiences, both people that are at home and people that are in venues and things like that, sporting venues. So we do a lot of live streaming, but we also do the traditional kind of things as well.
So how long has Bajan Coombs been in existence?
So I started Bajan Coombs about 4 years ago as a consultancy, just by myself.
When you say as a consultancy of doing what?
So I went through a midlife crisis.
Why are you pointing at me when you got midlife crisis?
I too decided to shave my beard off. But anyway, so about 10 years ago I went back to university as a 38-year-old, and whilst I was there I was getting some great opportunities, as my back history had me working in IT and sales and hospitality and failed DJ. That was in there. So I had all those experiences, and what that tended to do when I wrote my letters to companies to say, here I'm at Salford University doing a media degree, they were more inclined to invite me along on experiences because I'd had something behind that.
So you say you went back to university. Did you go to university before work?
So when I was younger, I think around about 21, 22 years of age, I went to university and I was useless at it.
What degree did you do?
I didn't do the degree, that's the point.
What subject did you attempt?
I pretended to do computation at the University of Manchester's Institute of Science and Technology, but I found rugby and beer, and that kind of then decided that was a great vocation to go down at that age. I wasn't ready. I was dyslexic as well, so I am still dyslexic, but all those things were kind of in there.
But you're interested in doing something techie?
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah, because I always used to take things apart when I was younger and all that kind of thing, wanting to know how things work, and I kind of grew up, and I'm quite lucky at 40 years of age, because I've kind of grown up with the advances in technology. So I was around when there wasn't mobile phones, I was around, that's why I started my life, that kind of, as that technology's come along.
What was your first computer?
So the first computer I had at home was a ZX Spectrum 48K with the rubber keys, but I had a BBC Micro at school and all that kind of stuff as well. So, and an RM Nimbus as well. I mean, we're going way back, but fortunately enough, I kind of grew up through that technology, so I was always into that kind of thing, engineering and all that kind of stuff. But university kind of turned my head to the world of having fun and stuff. I wasn't ready to commit to a passionate. I didn't have the passion for it. I thought I did, but I didn't. But I had a passion for rugby and beer. That's definitely where I went wrong. So I kind of changed tact, went into marketing, went into with the Millennium Bug. When that came around, I was going out and rebooting machines and doing all that kind of stuff. So I ended up at Manchester Airport.
The Millennium Bug that kind of was it overhyped?
I don't know. I think we did our job and we fixed them all before it went to midnight on the year 2000. But I mean, there was a lot of things that people took advantage of in the Millennium Bug thing, and I think a lot of companies did. And you had to, it's good because you did your software refreshes, your hardware refreshes, and all that kind of stuff. So I was going down that route, but then life kind of comes at you in a funny angle, and I went and I was sold hospitality for Sale Sharks. I did coaching for their community department.
So your love of rugby got you involved in Sale Sharks?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, obviously, we were kind of close to it, and I knew a couple of the lads and things like that as well. So yeah, that was quite good. But that sort of came after my time at Manchester Airport designing networks and IT systems and stuff like that. So
how did you get that? So if you didn't get your degree, how did you get a job designing systems for an airport?
It's a great question. How did that happen? I remember Vaguely, actually. It's a good story. So how did that happen? I went to Manpower and said, out of the...
That's an employment agency, isn't it?
Yeah. And kind of the guy, the recruitment guy there, looked at my CV, and it was one sheet of paper with font, 12-point font times zero. It was terrible. And the only experience I had on there was I played rugby at university. And this guy went, look, if you can come play rugby for me on Saturday, I can get you a job at doing this over there, sort of thing. My team's short players. So I was like, all right, then I will. So that's how I got into the rugby thing at Winslow Rugby Club and that. And then and it kind of ended up doing the Millennium Bug stuff, and that then led to the airport stuff because they were looking for some temp staff to look after the fibre networks there at the airport at the time. We're going back a long time here. And I remember getting shown around the network. Manchester was a huge place. And I got shown around, and this guy opened a door, and then he opened the server cabinets. And in there was a mess of fibre optic cables going all over the place. He goes, yeah, you'll be looking after this. And then he kind of blatantly just like blasé walked onto the next cabinet. And I stood there for a couple, and I remember it. I looked at it, I went, oh, yeah, how am I going to do this, you know? And he goes, look, don't worry, because this is how you test this. And they basically told me what I'd need to do. And then it grew from there. I just started learning on the job, and I started getting really interested in it. And I started thinking, actually, this is the future of tech that's coming down the line. We completely refurbished Manchester Airport's network. We pulled it out and put a new one in. I was designing wireless networks and multiple, what they call SSID networks, way before it was a thing. And I travelled to Belgium and learned some new systems and all that kind of stuff. So I was doing all that years and years ago. So that's how I got into the network stuff. But I don't think I was still happy in that sense.
So how long were you there for?
7 years, I think. It was a fair amount of time. And I remember there was a Champions League match on it at Old Trafford against Juventus and somebody else from Spain or Italy. And it was the final. And we had planes parked up on runway 2. It was absolutely chaotic. And I was on shift that night, and the network went down.
So hang on, you're doing networks that the air traffic controllers use, and the
luckily not, because I did turn the lights off on runway 2 once, and that was for 5 minutes, and I got them back on dead quick. But that was the control systems for those. Right. The lights stayed on, but the control systems didn't. But that was all to do with baggage check-in, the radar information that fed the ground control crews and all that. So all those networks fed each other. I didn't have to touch the NATs, the National Air Traffic stuff, but the radar information that was coming from them fed into our networks. But when the Champions League final, we had all these Italians ready to go home, and the networks failed. So that was all down to something really simple, which was a dodgy fan that had sparked and tripped all the server switches.
Wow.
So, luckily I'd been there long enough to gain the confidence to make the decisions on what to do to get it working again. So basically it was a couple of extension leads running through the door to get the power back up and bypass the power switches and all that kind of stuff. And that I wouldn't have got that confidence if I hadn't have spent all the time at the deep end and kind of going, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. So, yeah.
So you literally basically got thrown in the deep end and managed to swim instead of sink.
I think I am still sinking, to be fair. I don't know if I am swimming, but yeah, just it's
your head's above water anyway.
Yeah, I think, look, I'm generally a confident person anyway sometimes, and I've learnt the hard way that confidence can come across as cocky sometimes. You've got to be really careful and how you portray your confidence, I think. Before you know it, people hate you because they think you sound like a right idiot.
So what happened after Manchester Airport? Why did you leave, and what was next?
So, yeah, it was just just the opportunity to go and work for Sale Sharks. I think that's what it was. There was just this. So
following your passion for rugby and beer.
Yeah, rugby and beer. Well, I've got to resort back to that. That's where it went. No, I thought, I'll go down this route because I wasn't necessarily, wasn't me. You know, I knew the IT thing wasn't me. Again, with the Sale Sharks, I didn't think it was me. I left Sale Sharks to run my own bar and stuff like this, and I ran that at the wrong time because that was in the middle of a recession. All the bars were shut.
2008, I'm guessing.
2009 to 2012 it was, and I had to go bankrupt at the back of that because it absolutely tore me a new one, as they say. So that was a tough moment in life. So here we go. We're getting round to it now. Went bankrupt, and I thought to myself, so it was a hard decision to go bankrupt.
Yeah, just for the students watching, if you go bankrupt because you've got debts that you just find it impossible to pay. I'm assuming you had a company, you were working for yourself, and that's what the only way out of it was to. And it's a perfect legal thing to do, by the way, for anyone.
So I'd kind of set up this company to buy beer and pay staff and all that kind of thing, and the leisure industry, the hospitality industry is a horrible industry to be in. It's so hard,
especially the past 2 years.
Oh my God! I remember working Christmas Day, Christmas Eve. You didn't get any time off. You're in first thing in the morning. You're out late at night. You get 3 or 4 hours sleep a night. It's very hard. And where I was in regards to the bar I had, it was a very tough business. I tried everything. I had screens in the windows. I had free barbecues out the front on market days and all these things to try and attract business, and it was still struggling to bring the money over the door. We had football, we had Man United supporters downstairs, Man City supporters upstairs watching the same matches. It was great because everybody loved that sort of thing. But even then, we still weren't bringing enough money in to keep it afloat. And I had the rent bill, you had your rates. There was so many things that you were paying out. So we got to the point where we looked at this, and then I had to pull the emotion out of making a decision. So, and it still haunts me to today in this business, which is going really, really well. But there's still that kind of. It's hard to accept failure sometimes, and we can come on to that later. But
especially if it's a passion of yours.
Exactly, that passion's in there, and then you think. But then maybe it wasn't. That's the point. Because now let's look where we are.
But you must have learned lessons from things going wrong.
I hope so. And I hope I'm learning these lessons every day. Yeah. I mean, this is it. So the bankruptcy came. We decided to go bankrupt. That's it. Done. And it's a year. Well, it's 6 years of hurt. But that 1 year, everything or anything that you earn goes. To the bankruptcy. Yeah. So I then made the decision, instead of having, we call it our midlife crisis, instead of going out buying a flashy sports car and going out with a young blonde and all that sort of thing that you do, I couldn't get either, to be fair. So I thought, right, why not go back? So a lot of friends of mine at that time, they worked in the creative industries. So I had creative art directors, people that worked on television. They always seemed really happy. And they always seemed to really like, oh yeah, I've done this and now we're doing this. And I thought, actually, because they seem happy in their work-life balance side of things, why don't I get into that? So luckily enough, my missus, she worked for Peel. Peel owned Media City.
Now, Peel are the company that built Media City, and they used to own the Trafford Centre, and they build lots of shopping centres. Used to build lots in the northwest.
So Peel are very good at having this vision of taking derelict land and things that people don't want to see a value to and see the value in it, and that's pretty cool. And she was working for Peel at the time. In fact, I met her at the airport, so that's the journey. Right. So. Ended up at Salford University of Media City, and then I thought, well, if I've got to be in financial prison for a bit, I might as well work out and try and get myself into like a vocational, passionate route, and I think media industry is it. And I always, because I love the rugby, I thought I'll be a director of all the rugby games. I'll sit in the wagon at the Six Nations games and I'll call the shots, do you know what I mean? And I used to remember watching news reports and think, oh, why is that journo not asking the right question? Why are they letting them get away? So there was always something in me that was like, I can do better than that. I can do that. So it was always, and then the first couple of weeks in uni, they started showing us and teaching us about radio, and then I fell in love with radio. So then all of a sudden, every 6 or 7 weeks, my head got turned whilst at university trying different things. But what was sticking for me was this out to industry and doing all these work experience opportunities that I was doing, and I was getting in there. And my first couple of months, I was working down in Farnham in Surrey for Total Rugby, which is a programme on Sky Sports, and I was only supposed to do a couple of days, but they threw me a load of rushes and said, this is Panamanian rugby, can you do a 3-minute piece for Panamanian rugby for us? And I did, and they played it out and they said it was great, so they invited me back for another week. Wow. And that's it, my first couple of months at uni.
But if you hadn't volunteered to go and do that, you might not have...
It wouldn't have happened, yeah.
Right.
It wouldn't have happened at all. So I kind of put myself out there and said, now, and what's to be said that if I was a 18 or 19-year-old without all that...
Yeah, I was going to ask you that, because we got quite a few mature students at Glendower and on this Creative Futures module. Just having that life experience gave you an advantage over someone who goes straight from sixth form or college to university.
I think, well, for me, I wasn't ready when I was younger. So for me, yeah, definitely. I needed time to learn how my dyslexic brain works and stuff like that. So there's a lot of stuff going on up there that I didn't understand why I was getting things wrong. I used to think I'm Irish, so I always think I was the thick paddy, and that's what it was, you know. So I'd never amount to this, I'd never amount to that. And I remember, being told that I'd never be good enough to work in McDonald's at one stage. That was a horrible time, you know.
Was that when you were at school?
No, this was when I was at Sale Sharks.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, I remember that.
But have attitudes...
Not by anybody from Sale Sharks.
No, but have attitudes changed in the past 20 years to people with dyslexia, do you think? I'm only asking because I don't know, but as someone who's got it,
I mean...
You saying stories like that, is that still the same?
Well, I mean... We've got Andy. He's the same as me. You know, we take the mick out of each other a lot about it. To be fair, but I guess because we.
I suppose you can, yeah.
Yeah. So I think we're more patient, and I think this is it. I mean, we'll come on to our Badger Talent Pathway bit in a minute, but that we kind of understand things a little bit differently than maybe we would have done 20 years ago.
But I think there's more of an understanding of it now from society in general.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so, definitely. Yeah.
So carry on. I interrupted you with a dyslexia question.
You just bad for dyslexics, by the way, because we've got a train of thought.
Oh, right, okay.
Come in
I've just learned something.
So what was I talking about then?
So you're talking about you did the Panamanian rugby thing that got used, and they asked you back.
Yeah, they asked me, and then I did another week with them and stuff. It was great, and I felt part of this professional organisation that was kind of doing real tangible stuff. And the programme went out on the Wednesday night, and we all got together on the Thursday and we reviewed what went out on the Wednesday night, and then we said, right, this is the plan for next week, this is what we're doing next week, and I was involved in that planning production process.
So suddenly you're part of a team,
part of a professional company doing what I would be doing in industry. It was fantastic.
Had you had much experience working in a team before?
That was the first one. Well, okay. Working in teams, yeah, because I captained rugby sides. I mean, coach
apart from sports teams, because rugby is a team sport. I mean, in a work environment.
Yeah, so at Manchester Airport, I was part of the network sport team. So there was like 7 of us that looked after the networks and stuff like that. So yeah, I'd worked. That's the other thing, having that experience of working and understanding different dynamics in teams and stuff. I'd had that in the past. I think I didn't. There's only so much that you can learn, because don't forget, some of these guys, they've gone from GCSEs to A-levels to degree. They've not stopped between
exactly
education pathways, so they haven't been able to step outside that and get a taste of...
Let me ask you something about working in a group or working in a team. How do you deal... Okay, you've got experience, so that's what I'm asking, but how do you deal with if you end up having to work with people or individuals that you don't particularly get on with? But it's important that you have to for the end product. How do you cope with deal with that?
Well, a classic example is in the rugby team that I played in. Me and one of these other guys who didn't get on, but we had to play for the same team. There was still a common shared outcome that was needed, which was a victory and stuff like that. So we knew that for that 80 minutes when we were on the pitch together, we were best friends. You know what I mean? Other than that, it's not the case. So you know that there's...
So where you are now in life, if you found yourself working with some people and there's one individual, you would be looking at the bigger picture.
Always look at the bigger picture, because I'm not the bigger picture. You know, the Badger and Coombs isn't about me. It's about everything else but me. You know what I mean? That's the thing. And I think my significance in that is quite small, really, compared to that bigger picture. And that's what being in a team's all about. You're not. They say there's no I in team, but there's an me. You know, all that kind of cliche stuff. But you are working towards a different end result.
So if you were like 20 or 21, right, and you'd done that straight from A-levels to university, and you never worked in a group, but you got the opportunity to work in a group project at university, rather than moan about it, would you just get on with it because it's going to help you in the future?
Oh, always look forward. Don't look at the present and don't look at the past. Yeah, the present, you're in the present. There's nothing you can do about that, but you can dictate your future. You can dictate. In fact, in the present, you can dictate your environment. You can be in control of your environment. If we sat in a right old crap hole right now, we're not.
We're not.
It's
no.
Amazing. But if you were, you'd be able to decide whether or not it was a positive or negative environment for you. You don't have to let the environment dictate what it is to you. You know what I mean?
No, you're right. I found myself, as in my other life as a DJ, I've turned up at clubs that have been absolutely hideous.
Yeah.
Now, there's two ways. I know DJs who just throw a strop and storm out. I go, right, well, this is rubbish, but let's make it work. And that's, I think that's a better way of looking at it, which is what you're getting at, really.
Yeah, absolutely, because we talk about it a lot. We do sit down as a group at Bajan and Coombs, and we're always talking about affecting our environment and stuff like this, and going in there to do jobs in situations where we don't necessarily have all the stuff that we need, we don't have the support that we need, but we're strong enough as a team, as a group, to be able to make and affect those changes to make it a successful outcome. So we're always looking at successful outcomes, and we're always very keen to, even when things don't go right as well, you spin the positives out of it. You'll sit down and go, right, so this happened, what can we take from this to make it even better for next time? So there's never really failure, there's just opportunities to succeed even more.
You're definitely a glass half full person.
Oh, too right, yeah.
Glass of beer.
After being bankrupt, life changes, life tells you different, you know what I mean? So
okay, so leading up, anything else of significance before we come to Bajan and Coombs?
So I think at the university it was great. It was very difficult for me at first at university because I was older, 38 years of age, and everybody around me was 18. I was like 20 years older, and I was very worried at first about going into that environment and how do I portray myself without looking like a proper boomer and stuff like that. You know, these lot always call me a boomer all the time.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. A Generation X, by the way, is completely different.
I'm a boomer, yeah.
Yeah, I'm a Gen X, and
right, okay.
we listen to our elders. That's what I'm saying. So, but very quickly, when I was there in those early months, I started to connect to some real passionate students who were just so into the world of media. They really wanted to make it a vocational thing for them. I wish I was like that when I was at university the first time, because these guys now, there's a lot of them are just doing some fantastic things, but I got to rub up against them and bring them along my journey whilst I was at university. I got paid as a consultant at the university because I was getting all these opportunities. I was bringing students along on those opportunities with me that wouldn't necessarily have got into those opportunities because I was almost like, oh, well, I kind of vetted this guy, he's fine, and she's brilliant, and let's go do this. And they were standing out on their own 2 feet, and then the clients and the industry were going, can we have more of these people? We want more of these people. These guys are ready for industry. These guys, we need these guys to be telling us what they're learning and what their thoughts are on the future of media tech and stuff like this. So that kind of unfolded, and then I got the opportunity. I got asked by a professor at Salford to set up a media production team at Salford, and I said, oh, I'll do it as a consultant, because then I'd use all my experiences, my tech experiences, my sales experiences, my hospitality experiences, and all those client relationship experiences. I could bring those, make a bit of money as a consultant while still studying my masters, my bachelor's and my masters at Salford. So.
And this is, you're kind of making it up as you go along, right? That's what I'm guessing, because you didn't have any plan. I'm going to set up a production company. Absolutely. I'm going to be a consultant.
So the consultant bit was like, that was dead easy. It's just me. I can set up a consultancy and I'm responsible for my own stuff. It's what happened afterwards when we decided that, well, the university decided it didn't want to carry on paying me as a consultant, and the project had come to its natural end. It was a 3-year project anyway. Yeah. So it had come to its natural end, and they didn't want to invest into growing it further. So a difficult decision had to be made by me and Katie and Billy and Andy and the early students. So they were students originally, but then they came to work on the media production project, and then we made the decision to spin out what we were doing and go by ourselves and create this kind of Bajan and Coombs media production company. So as opposed to it just being me as a consultant, we decided to grow it into the company.
Right, so you thought, well, let's set up my own production company, or media company. Yeah. But hang on, if you're bankrupt, that stops you doing stuff, doesn't it?
I mean, there's something definitely wrong up here. Do you know what I mean? There's something.
I don't think there's that much wrong. Come on.
I really don't know how to answer that question.
But what year did you set up Bajan and Coombs?
So 4 years ago.
Right, so that's 2018.
2018, and then for the past 2 years, it's been its own bigger entity.
Okay, so you decided to set up Bajan and Coombs. Right, your name's, it's your company, yeah? Your name's McKevitt. Why is it called Badger and Coombs?
So, I was looking for a name that sounded established.
Right.
And I always like the idea of having an animal in your company.
So you put in the creative thought into
Yes.
naming the company rather than call it Colin McKevitt Media.
Yeah.
CMM. Yeah, CMM sounds too like CNN. Sorry, carry on.
That's not bad, actually. I could have copied the logos.
Yeah.
No, so I always used to think, like, I need to, like, you hit like Tiger Aspect TV, you know, that tiger, powerful animal.
Yeah.
You know, you've got
Hat Trick.
Hat Trick, Elephant and Castle.
Yeah.
Is a place. It seems to have it's an animal and a thing. You know, so I thought, actually, if I could come up with a brand, and I was starting to think of brand alignment, and I don't want to be the brand. I need the brand to be something else, and I'll come on to our ethos in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
But I always thought, right, what animal is the kind of animal that badgers away? And, oh, hang on a minute, badgers. You know, there's all of a sudden we always used to do. I remember once we were down doing a job down at Silverstone, and we brought. There was about 30 students down on a bus at 4 o'clock in the morning, and we thought badgers only do that. There's only that sort of thing. We'll get up in the morning and get scurrying around. Yeah. So that kind of clicked, and then I thought, I've got the animal, now I need a thing, and I started looking at hills and mountains and valleys, and put some word generator thing in, and it came up with this word Coombe. It's a very Welsh word, actually, Coombe, and it was all to do with this valley to the sea and all this kind of thing. And then that started clicking, actually, feeding talent from the rivers to the oceans and all that. You know, all that started to... So there was a creative process to it. Then I wanted it to look like it was a law firm or an accountancy firm.
Right.
So it has this youthful exuberance, yet it has an established... Because if you're trying to sell to CEOs and trying to pitch to managing directors that want an established brand, then that's kind of where it kind of came to, really.
Yeah.
So it still needs a bit of work. It was a poor trace of a picture sort of thing. So.
But it worked. Badger and Coombs, it was. That's really interesting. The reason I asked that is because a lot of the students watching this are split into groups, and they've got to come up with an imaginary product or an imaginary event or some design or something. And part of that is to brand it. So that just by asking you that shows you that you didn't just pluck the name out of thin air. There was a long thought process that went into it, and look at the results.
Yeah, I mean, that story gets longer and longer every time I tell it, so it might have been a very quick thing, I don't know at the time. But definitely...
No, but you didn't go for the easy option.
No.
CMM.
CMM, yeah.
If you ever use that, I want a credit, okay?
No worries. We can put it on the board.
Yeah. So what was the first gig you got, the first job you got at Badger and Coombs? And I mean, you mentioned Katie, who's over here, and we'll have a chat with Katie later. Just tell us how you set it up and what your first gig was.
So whilst we were at Salford, so one of my main roles as a consultant was connecting to clients. So clients included the Super League, Betfred Super League. We take care of their brand stuff. They do a podcast for them. We do Super League stories. Katie's just come back from France, actually. She was out there filming for Sky Sports. In fact, in 2 weeks' time, we're back down to Sky Sports studio with the Super League, with the trophy, and we'll be doing a podcast inside their headquarters with the Sky News studio in the background. So
wow.
It's just and that all came up from a conversation that I had with somebody who was at Super League at the time, and I told him all about what we did, and he said, actually, this sounds like a great idea, and he took us on. So, and then from there we started growing out to more things like the BBC and Lancashire Cricket. But it's when Andy Burnham and Sasha Lord came to us to tell us about this idea that they had during the pandemic.
Yeah, well, so you've set 2018, so 2 years after you set up your company and things start going well, we're hit with a global pandemic, and on March the 23rd, 2020, the whole country locked down.
Yeah.
What did you think?
This sounds like a great time to start a business, yeah. You know what I mean? I've done it before in a recession. Well, so do you know what? It's about you take on the opportunities when they arise, I guess.
But you mentioned Sasha Lord. He is a promoter who runs the Warehouse Project in Manchester. He's also the Greater Manchester City Council. Is it Greater Manchester City Council?
GMCA Nighttime Economic Advisor.
Nighttime Advisor. And Andy Burnham is the elected mayor of the Greater Manchester City region. And they came to you with the idea for United We Stream. Tell us what that is.
So in Berlin, just to write I think if I remember rightly, Europe were going into lockdown a lot quicker than we were at the time, and I think in Berlin, the Sasha alternative in Berlin, he'd come up with this idea. Now Berlin love their house music, and the darker and more Uber the house music in Berlin, the better. So they...
Why don't DJ there very often?
Yeah. So they...
I'm a bit more euphoric.
Yeah, definitely more euphoric. But they come up with this idea of highlighting the impact of the pandemic on the club scene.
Yeah,
and
which was a devastating impact, by the way.
Absolutely huge. Real
first industry to shut down completely.
Yeah, and the last one to
open.
So, and they thought, let's put some cameras in there and let's stream these DJs to the people at home. The benefit of that, so this was sort of in Berlin, but then the benefit of bringing it to Manchester was that we can send stay-at-home messages and connect to the audience at home that don't watch the 6 o'clock news and the news at 10. The audiences that kind of were in, like, just disenfranchised from that mainstream media communication were more inclined to connect to it on a digital platform. So that's what the GMCA, Andy Burnham, Sasha wanted to do, and we had the mindset, the facility, the knowledge to do it because we've been doing it previous.
Why did they approach you though?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I know.
Well, you must have had some kind of decent reputation after 2 years, right?
We knew a few people. We knew JC, who was a former student at Salford as well, that was working for Andy Burnham.
Yeah.
Sasha, I knew Sasha years and years ago when I was a student.
So you had connections, basically.
There was a knowledge, there was a knowledge there, and I think because we were a safe pair of hands as well, I guess, and we weren't in the mindset of, we were only doing Monday to Friday. We knew this sort of thing would have to be more than the usual Monday to Friday thing. 9 to 5 didn't exist. We were working till 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. In fact, one crazy DJ thought he could DJ for 2 days straight. Well, what did we do? 12 hours?
12 hours we did, yeah.
Yeah, crazy DJ did 12 hours.
I was happy to. I could have done 24.
Well, it's still going to happen.
I'm sure it will happen. In fact, while we're talking about United We Stream, could we maybe have some footage in the background?
Yeah, Katie can.
But basically, they came to you and said, we want to do what they're doing in Berlin, but do it in Manchester.
So this is the thing. So this is what was great about Manchester, was that we were kind of the first in the UK to do it. So it was like United We Stream, Manchester.
There's Katie on the camera.
Yeah. Mr. Scruff. Yeah.
Gareth Brooks.
So there you can see the stay-at-home hashtags in the core, kind of highlighting what was it. Oh, there we go. Look at that idiot there. So here we go. There's like an empty.
It was the Bury Met.
Bury Met. Yeah. So this was the thing where we were, because we were so small. We weren't this big behemoth like the BBC and ITV. We were able to react and be adaptable to situations and get in and out of places with our kit here that we could do. Even our team meetings were on Zoom, yeah.
Excellent.
We actually never met the team that we set up with the GMCA. We actually never got together for the first couple of months, I think it was. It wasn't until that first lockdown finished that we got together. So that was K-Class.
Yeah.
So we brought it to Manchester, but what we found was, and this is what's so great about culture and arts, and there's a very strong digital talent base in the north of the country, and I'll include Wales with that as well, that isn't London, that there's a lot of people who can connect digitally that maybe the big media companies can't get. And what we were finding is that other cities, Birmingham, London, they couldn't set up their own United We Streams, so everybody came to ours. And one of the biggest nights, in fact, was the Hacienda New Year's Eve event.
Yeah.
I think we had like 4 million.
That was 24 hours. That was a 24-hour stream.
That was a stupid idea. Whoever came up with that, I think that was me saying to Fletch, let's go around the time zones of the world.
It was 12 or 10 to 12 DJs, wasn't it? Yeah. More than that, because 24 hours.
Yeah, we went to Vietnam. We had stuff going on in New York, and obviously an amazing midnight set. I still retweet that all the time. But so you saw just a shot there of an artist playing in an empty place.
Yeah,
and
it was great though, because as someone who works in clubs every weekend, even though it was empty, even though the Bury Met was empty, it was great getting in my car, driving on an empty motorway, right, and getting to the Bury Met. Okay, I say it was empty. I had the crew as the audience.
Yeah.
Or everyone here, the crew. But a kicking sound system.
Oh, it was great in there, wasn't it?
And then I just imagined it was rocking. You did a fantastic job.
We had, what was really good about that is that we invited the audience from home in. So we had, crazy DJs, I told you. So we invited the audience in from home to tweet us and send messages in. And we also kind of capitalised on existing technologies. So we looked at Zoom and Skype and things like that, and we fed those back into the broadcast, and we created VIP stream rooms. And one poignant moment for me was when it was the second anniversary of the bomb. I think the second anniversary of the Manchester bombing.
The Manchester Arena bombing.
And the survivors, because there's a survivors choir, and they get together and they sing and they help each other out. There's a very close support network there. They were worried they wouldn't be able to come together and do that because of the lockdown and stuff like this. So we come up with an idea to celebrate them and remember the bombing, and we managed to get permission to take 50 of them down to Media City. We put them 4 metres apart, not 2, so we were really mindful of.
Well, I saw a clip of that there, yeah.
And they sung a few songs, and we recorded it, and then we played it out. That evening we had Mel C DJing. And we set up a little private Zoom room for the Manchester survivors, and they were dancing away, and then we'd feed them back into the broadcast. So they were dancing, seeing themselves dancing, people were tweeting it in, and all of a sudden the audiences were getting connected again. So
really, how much of this? So basically, your tech background really comes into play here. Was it a case of you thinking, how can we do this? No one's done it before.
Yeah.
I know. I'm going to try and work out. A way of doing it.
So before pandemic times, the BBC would send a cameraman, a satellite dish, a truck, sound engineer, a couple of lighting people, makeup artists, somebody to do the hair, somebody fetch the coffees, chef, truck. All of that would go to film somebody from their home down the line. Yeah. Very quickly, people realised that it doesn't matter if it's a bit grainy. It doesn't matter if it's a bit wobbly or whatever. If it sounds all right and the story's coming across, it's fine. We're in a pandemic and he's at home on a rubbish internet connection. We can handle that, because it's not about being overproduced and glossy. It's about sending a shareable experience. So everybody was on Zoom, everybody was on Skype, everybody was on Teams. So people seeing that at home were quite happy to acknowledge that it didn't have to be glossy. Don't get me wrong, in some instances it was very glossy. We had
all the
DJs
stuff all the stuff from the Bury Met's very glossy, very well produced, very well edited.
Not too bad. I remember getting a couple of the New York DJs. I think, who did we have from Miami as well? David Morales, I think we had him on. So
Rosa Sanchez,
that all looked really good, and which is fine. But I think I remember once we had Gina Breeze DJing at Homo Electric, and while she was DJing, her family were on the big screen behind her, and she turned around and waved at them, and they waved back to her. And I was just like, perfect, this is exactly what you need. This is the kind of connected audiences that you want. Now, you can pay a lot of money for high-quality broadcasters to do that, but you can actually do it quite really. You can utilise the technology.
But does it help that most people have got one of these days?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you can hook them up in that and get a decent stream from there. And how important? I mean, like, obviously, faster Wi-Fi and broadband speeds help as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, we stayed off the Wi-Fi. We're not a big fan, but we kind of plug into the wires and
I mean, but you're going off broadband, though,
aren't absolutely. You? Yeah. I mean, we've got a thing at Bajan Coombs called an Evs Xt3 Pro 380, which is basically a modem that you can put on the back of a camera, and it has 8 4G dongles in it, and it has Wi-Fi, and it has an Ethernet wire that you can plug in. You can bond all those connections together, so we can stream a live broadcast from anywhere that has any one of those type of connections in it. So bar top of Ben Nevis, I think you can actually get Wi-Fi at the top of Ben Nevis. So bar the biggest mountains and the biggest places, we can pretty much
hang on, you don't get bigger mountains in Ben Nevis.
Is Ben Nevis the biggest one, is it?
In the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland,
Scottish mountains, As soon as they start naming hills, you know you're in Scotland. You know what I mean?
They're not called hills, they're called bens.
Bens.
Yeah. Anyway, we're in Wales, not Scotland. So the thing is that if the pandemic had happened 10 years ago, would this have been possible?
To an extent, yeah.
But not as good though, not as straightforward.
Not as well. Yeah, I think so. Why were we are where we are now is because 10 years ago when we first went to university, we were talking about all this sort of stuff. We were saying this is where the future of...
Right, so you would look into the future and then suddenly you're there going, all right.
Yeah. I mean, I can bore you now for the next 3 hours about object-based media methodologies and the future of media consumption habits.
Don't worry, I'll share your email address. People can ask you if they want.
Please
okay?
do, yeah. We love talking about that sort of stuff. Honest to God, it's really good. But this is the whole point, is that we don't have audiences anymore. We have media consumers, and people connect differently to media content than they used to do when it was a theatre. So that's where television came from.
Of course.
Radio came from the theatre. It was very passive. DJing used to be very passive, but we've always talked about how can you get the audience to interact with the DJs differently and stuff like this. I say it was passive. You used to have somebody hanging onto your DJ booth going, hey,
when I started, it was about the music, not the DJ. Now it seems to be about the DJ more than it used to be, but it should be about the music.
It's always about the music.
Now, okay, we're coming out of the pandemic, and audiences are back in sports grounds, and audiences are back at festivals and live events and clubs. But is this way of broadcasting here to stay?
Absolutely, and it's how you apply it to different requirements.
I mean, just the fact we're doing this today, we started doing online teaching because of the pandemic, but now we're getting the students back. We're still combining online with in person.
However, if you're not here, you're going to miss out on sort of really cool stuff.
Well, exactly.
Yeah. So there is a downside to not being here, but it's all right. It's fine. But yeah, so one of our clients, Lancashire Cricket, we have a 3-year deal with them to broadcast all their games because their audiences are beyond Manchester. They have a massive Indian audience. We've in the past streamed to a subscriber channel of 300 million.
Wow.
So, that's quite a big thing. And what's that doing? That's telling that audience about the Lancashire Cricket brand and how to align and connect to that brand and how that brand connects back to them. So, yeah.
But you mentioned you've got a deal with Lancashire Cricket that lasts for 3 years. So it's not just your tech knowledge. You've got to have some kind of business acumen as well, haven't you? If you've got to do those deals, do you do those deals yourself?
Yeah.
Okay. Presumably your previous lesson of going under, has that helped you?
I mean, if you can sell hospitality to a Sale Sharks game against some Harlequins table of 10 and sell it out, you must have some skills.
Okay, yeah, no, absolutely, yeah.
But I don't know. I don't see myself selling things here. I'm not selling Badger and Coombs. It's a passion I have for the media industry. It's a passion I have for taking second year, third year students from different places and harnessing that talent and going, here you go.
Do you approach different, whatever you're working on, do you approach it differently or is it the same? I mean, like you do live sports events, you do like the United We Stream, all types of events. Does it depend on the product, how you approach it?
Yeah, of course. I mean, Katie and I recently, I don't know if you saw Comic Relief on Friday gone, but the opening shot with the drone coming in through the doors, and that was us.
Oh, really?
So we did that, yeah. So
brilliant.
Controlled crashing a drone is a very difficult thing to do, but we did it. We managed it. It cost me a couple of new blades, but that's fine. But yeah, we're trained in the media industry, so we can put our hands to whatever different requirements that we need. So
one of the things that was on the screen, I saw there was some artists painting. What was that? Because there was a lot of art and design students who are on this module.
Again, we might see it again. So yeah, that was the art battle. So the thing that I really love about United We Stream was about showing this arts and culture. So it wasn't just about a DJ banging away. It was all about the whole wide range of arts, culture, hospitality. We had chefs and cook-alongs, comedy events and things like this. We went into a brewery, for example. So you couldn't organise a up in a brewery, and that we thought, well, that's good. Let's do one then. Let's see what happens. So it was a lot of mixed things. But one of the things they do with this art battle is they go to a place and everybody stands around 4 artists in the middle of a venue, and they have like 10, 15 minutes or something to create a piece of artwork. and then everybody votes on which one the winner is. Then it goes through to a final, and then they do that. And I thought, well, let's do that remotely. Let's have them sat at home on Zoom or on Teams or whatever, and we'll quadrant up the screen, and we'll come to the Camerata in a minute. That was immense.
Oh, I want to ask you about that. Yeah,
that was immense. And then and we'd have these artists, and then we had the Soul Twins, the Soul Brothers, the Soul Twins doing the DJing, and Hattie was doing the commentating and stuff. And it was almost like a different way to engage in. And the art battle has a following, and it was that following that was like, oh, we'd love to go to an art battle right now. And then there we go. That's how we did it.
There we go.
So, yeah.
Wow.
Katie, you're a legend.
See, very good pause skills there.
Yeah.
So that's just people with their laptop or their phone at home, and you're taking the feed and you're mixing it all together. Yeah,
and we can cut to any one of those four we wanted to, and pretty cool actually. I'm a bit blasé about it, to be honest, because
but it's what you do, though, isn't it?
But actually, when you actually stop and think for a minute, that was pretty cool.
No, it is impressive. Honestly, as someone I did about 5. I had 5 trips to the Bury Met, and each time, first of all, you instilled major confidence in everyone, because you came across as you know exactly what you were doing, and you never got stressed out, and everything just worked beautifully, and it was immense fun.
Quiet down in the front there.
Why are you laughing? One of his colleagues laughing. Well, let's take us through some of this kit, if you don't mind. I mean, what's behind us?
Yeah, we can do. Andy will come with us. If you want us to walk around it and talk about it and stuff.
We're going to get a handheld camera, and then while we're doing that, there's me walking around over there as well. While we do that, I'm going to just see if there's any questions online coming up. If anyone's got any questions on Teams, just give us a shout, and I will pass them on to Colin. So tell us what we got here.
Cool. All right. So if Andy comes with me, so we call it a portable production unit, but you can give it many names. And so the brains of that is in this cabinet, this rack.
Is this the sort of thing that, like, 15, 20 years ago, this would be an articulated lorry?
Yeah.
Right. So
Absolutely.
It's now just a couple of cases on wheels.
Yeah. Yeah, because we don't have to worry necessarily about a lot of the things that they need to worry about in broadcast redundancy and all those kind of things. We're very much, and the Blackmagic kit is really cheap and affordable. It's not, there's broadcast standard equipment that costs millions, and I'll come to EVS in a second, because I've just recently got back from their headquarters, talking to them about some of their stuff, which is just incredible setups for asset ingesting and using media asset management and stuff. But in essence, we've got the brains of the operation, which is this piece of kit here, and that switcher runs to the desk, which we'll go and talk to Katie about in a minute. Mm-hmm. But here we have a 40 by 40, 40 inputs and 40 outputs.
Wow.
Which means we can take any feed in and send it anywhere we want to within the system.
Have you ever used every single one of those feeds?
We have, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, on United We Stream, actually.
Yeah.
So, and then here we have some little mini players. So this is let's have a look. This is one of the cameras. This is the VT that we've just been watching. So that's all getting played out on each one of these 6 what we call ISOs. Then we've got another recorder here, and then down here we've got what's called a Terranex AV, and this is a fibre converter, because we run fibre cameras as well. So, but this piece of kit here, this Terranex AV, go on Andy, getting close to that, mate. That basically, in essence, we can send any signal to it, and then it'll send any signal out. So whatever you put on either end of it, a camera or America on the other end, it'll convert it to NTSC.
Yes, so all of our creative media technology students will be getting really excited about all this.
Well, if they were here, Graham, they could have a go at it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So,
but the thing is, without content, though, you wouldn't have anything to do, would you?
Well, we'd want the audience to make the content for us, wouldn't we?
No, exactly. But I mean, like, whether you're an artist or a graphic designer or a filmmaker or a performer, you rely on creatives to create, even though this is very technical, to do the stuff you're going to do.
Absolutely. I think, this is why we're different as well. We're very much technical digital creatives. So we're not just, Andy doesn't just point a camera. He can understand how to take the tech and do things creatively with it. And it's that, when we took the people from home on Zoom, it's that digital creativity that fits into the productions and stuff like that.
Okay, so
That's a key thing. So know your tech,
Yeah.
know how to apply your creativity to it.
what should we move on to next?
So this big chunk of metal here, this is called an Evs Xt3. So any sports fans out there, any football fans as well, the EVS is a huge company that deals with, predominantly they used to deal with slow-mo replays and sports action replays, but now they've grown into this media asset management thing, that company that can better utilise your content. So for example, we all have huge, I mean, I'm sure when you're putting your pieces of work in, you're uploading them to the MAM and stuff like this. If you think of a huge organisation like the FA or Sky Sports, they have years and years of archive content. If you want to call on that archive content very quickly, you need to be able to have a system that you can tag and metadata to call on that stuff. And then when you use it, you need to make a record of how you use it. So we're getting into object-based media methodologies here, which I won't get into too much, because if I get going, I won't stop. But the future of that connectivity to the content, EVS are a brilliant asset. They're really, really brilliant. But what they're renowned for, and we'll go over to Chloe quickly, is this slow-mo replay stuff and live action.
So that's like the modern equivalent of what used to be a massive room full of tapes.
Yeah. So now it all sits on a server there and is controlled by this. And without further ado, I'll hand you over to Chloe, who slowly will tell us, because
show us how this works, Chloe.
Yeah, it's quite cool. I find it simple, but it's quite complicated. So basically, I get 6 inputs into my EVS. So whenever I'm at a sports event, I have to choose very carefully what cameras I have. So as you can see, the 6 inputs are there, and then I've got 2 remotes, so that's 2 outputs that the director can play at any one time. So it's very similar. It's very similar to editing. So you can, if I move the cards out of the way, so we can see the screen.
This is all done live, is it?
Yes.
Right. So it's similar to editing, but it's like live mixing, if you like.
Yeah, you can live mix, because as you can see, we have a preview and a program, so technically you can vision mix, but that's not the main purpose. No, it's all right. It's not the main purpose of it. So it's more editing where you're clipping out things. So if you've got a live game, because we did a football match at one point. So if you click an in, so you set an in point to the start of the clip, and then you can also out, and that's your out point, and then go to a clear page.
So Chloe's actually making this look a lot easier than it is, to be fair.
So would like a director say, I need to see this urgently.
And then when I have a clip, I can then click the clip that I've just made, and then we can play it out. So from any one of these 6 cameras.
Is that how you would do an instant replay on a football match or a rugby match?
Yeah, absolutely.
So if a goal had happened...
Is this how VAR works?
So VAR use a similar system, but not as
fancy.
Fancy as that. They have a different version of it. And the same goes for head injury assessment as well. Hawkeye, I think, use that as well. So there's a lot of technology used in sport. I mean, you just got to watch the rugby, for example, when the director kind of throws a couple of images on there, and the TMO then goes, actually, let's take a look at that, So that ability to look back again. And it's all down to Katie then, after the clip's ready, to decide on when she wants to bring it in. So
you mentioned Katie loads, and Katie's camera lens was in my face loads at United Extreme. What do you do at Bajan and Coombs?
Well, so like Colin kind of said earlier, we're all kind of take on multiple roles. So kind of day to day in the office, I production manage. But then when we're on set, I either operate the cameras or click the buttons that make everything happen. Depends who's on the team and what we're doing. So. And
is this something that you wanted to do, or is it something you kind of just found yourself doing?
Cameras, I knew I kind of always wanted to do. I never knew I was any good at it until I got to uni and actually got to use them. Thankfully, I was half decent at it. But the directing actually came after I graduated, so I just ended up kind of being the person to do it one time. I think everyone else already had a role and I was the one left, so I gave it a go, and I wasn't too bad at it, and in the last couple of years I've kind of built my skills up, and I'd say I'm all right at it now.
Well, no, I think the proof is you're very good at it. What do you like most about working with Colin?
The variety, I'd say. Variety. So.
Variety.
The amazing boss. No.
Yeah.
Yes, not no, but the variety. The variety of roles, the variety of projects, the variety of people that you work with. So we've worked with athletes, sports stars, DJs, other musicians, artists, anywhere up to government bodies, people like that. So yeah, I'd say that just the variety and the ability to be creative in a variety of different roles as well.
Tell us about your journey from being a student to where you are.
Yeah, I was about to ask that.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, it's fine. No, it's fine.
It's a good story.
You're taking over now.
Sorry.
Well, it's kind of the typical story, really. So, finished school at 16, went to college, studied media, film, and music tech. Kind of gave myself a broad thing. I knew I wanted to do something creative, and I knew I couldn't draw. So I kind of took all three to see where I went. Then I couldn't quite decide between kind of media and music tech, so I did TV and radio at university because it kind of took a bit of the audio and a bit of the visual. It turned out I was crap at radio, so I ditched that. And then I got my hands on some cameras, and that's what kind of made sense to me. I could just look at it and know if a shot was right or not. I don't know how. It's just something that's in me. That's just how I look at the world, I guess. I'm a visual learner and whatever. So started doing that, and then I started looking for experience, like runners roles and things like that. Because I was in Media City, I went to the University of Salford. So I thought, well, the BBC are here, the ITV are here, let's try and get in with the big boys. So I sent out a lot of CVs and stuff, but I hadn't had any experience prior to coming to university. And obviously it's very, very competitive. So I found that I was getting a lot of rejections, basically, because I hadn't already had any experience. And that's where Colin kind of came in. Like he said, he was taking some students along on the journey. And the point at which I kind of fell out of love with mainstream broadcast was I'd applied to be a runner on Judge Rinder.
Right.
And the day I got my rejection email for not having enough experience, I was filming Rob Rinder at the Royal Television Society Awards with Colin.
Right.
So in the same day I'd been told I wasn't good enough to fetch a coffee, but I was good enough to film. And I don't think they rejected me because I was too good. So that's where I kind of thought, wait a minute, this digital media's got something to it. So I kept on taking experience with Colin, taking experience with other smaller companies around Media City as well.
But at the same time, building the CV.
But yeah, so kind of building up my skills, working on as many projects as I could, getting my hands on different cameras. So I can't just go out and say, I operate a camera, which one? Oh, well, this one very specific piece. You want to have a variety. You want to, like we've brought a variety of cameras here with us today. You want to get your skills up. So I just started taking on work with Colin, taking on work with smaller companies and building up that CV. And then when I came to the end of my university project, Colin said to me, come work for me for 2 months. So I did. And then, okay, I'll keep you another month. How about 6 more months? How about a year? And here I am 4 years later.
Yeah, so obviously...
Still doing it.
Trying to get rid of her age.
You clearly knew what you were doing and your experience...
I think I knew a bit of what I was doing when I left uni. I think over the last 4 years I've definitely grown a lot, and that's because I've had the opportunities from
So what
Colin.
would you say to a student who's not sure what they want to do? I mean, based on what you said, try different things out.
Definitely, yeah. Don't be afraid to get stuck in and experiment with different things. It's all right if something doesn't end up being for you. Don't be worried about having a go at something and not being good at it or not quite understanding it. If it's not for you, it's not for you. At least you've given it a go. It doesn't matter. And you might find that actually something that you think, I've no idea what's going on here, I'm not going to be any good at this. You might find that actually there's a hidden talent in there somewhere.
And just get experience and build up a CV while still being a student.
Talk to people and get that experience and just draw yourself in as much as you can. This 3 years is the time to experiment, so I'd say go for it.
Well, thank you very much, Katie.
So this is the thing is that why it's so much better so we've got some real good successes through the Badger talent pathway in that we've got one.
What is the Badger talent pathway?
So basically does
it involve burrowing and no, sorry.
Talent they do burrow, don't they? Yeah. In a nutshell, it's a process that we bring the students along on things and how we mentor them, help them, support them to get access to these opportunities, basically working with real industry. So an example is that we've got one lad called Ollie who worked with us for a while. He's now working for the Super League and he's now our client. So he was a Badger talent pathway student. Now he's moved because he was so good. He got recognised by the client and the client said, can you come and work for us? And we were like, yeah, absolutely. And now he tells us what he needs us to do. So it's great. It's a great example.
That's a great story. Before we kind of wrap up, what would you say? How important is networking? Because that's I suppose that's kind of networking, isn't it?
Yeah, I still do it today. So an example of networking, I was on the train coming from EVS headquarters to Brussels with a guy called Dominic from Timeline Television, having a really good chat with him. Spent a great, we're going to catch up when he's next up at Media City, and that's Timeline TV. They have all the OB wagons. You're always constantly going to meet people in the industry.
What about during the pandemic, though, when you weren't meeting people? Were you still networking online?
Still networking online, yeah. So, I mean, I've got some great phone numbers in my phone now, and I'm really scared to dial them half the time. Only when I need Graham Park's advice on stuff. So I will ring that all the time.
Of course.
But, yeah, that's the whole. It was great because we were working with artists and famouses who, were suffering as much as everybody else. There was a nice little level playing field for everybody. Everybody was sharing the same experiences. It's just a different way of networking. You can. Some people find it hard to say, "Hey, how you doing? My name's Colin." And it's very hard. I find it hard. But when you actually go, "Oh, so you like music, do you?"
Yeah, it's a confidence thing, though, isn't it? I think the older you get in life and the more experience you have, then the more confidence you're gonna grow.
Well, and this is the thing, we've got guys that work with us, students that don't really like to pick up the phone and make a phone call, and it's all very easy to text and things like this, but pretty quickly we break that out of them, and we've got guys now who were like, this person's not coming back to me. I just phone them, and they'll phone them, and they'll get the answers they need.
Yeah.
That takes a bit of time to break out of that cycle.
I get that when people want to book me for a private event, and we start doing emails. I just go, hang on, they've got their phone number on there, so I just pick up the phone and speak to them.
Chat.
And you can get things done quicker sometimes, can't you?
Yeah, I mean, it's very difficult.
The personal touch.
Yeah, if you're not very good at... so look, hang on. I think a lot of this comes back to when you and I were younger, there wasn't 24-hour social media and people judging us by the way, they judge who we
Black and white telly when I was born.
What's he dropping that tune for again? But we didn't get judged like the younger generations gets judged right now. So it's very difficult for them to put themselves out there without the fear of being judged and things like this. But you can't be judged for making a phone call. You can't be judged for being yourself. Just be yourself. You know what I mean? And just if you're passionate about something and you've got a love of something and that's what you want to be, don't be afraid to put that out there. You just toss what anybody else thinks.
That is absolutely sound advice. Before we finish, tell us. And this kind of ties in with networking. Tell us about your charity event in 18 months. What are you doing in 18 months?
Is it 18 months?
Yeah, September next year.
Right. So I don't have kids and that sort of thing. I'm too old for that now.
You got your Coombs. You're the badger. You got your Coombs, yeah.
Coombs, yeah. Definitely have. Is that the right word? I don't know. Katie's full in her face. But anyway, so I thought. So obviously, look, times have been hard, and a friend of mine before the pandemic hit tried to kill himself, and very tough little mental health situation there. And then the day after he was in hospital getting his stomach pumped and everything, another friend of ours died of a heart attack, and we'd had WhatsApp groups set up, and then we changed another WhatsApp group for another WhatsApp group, so he wasn't in it, and then he wasn't in it. So it was all getting very complicated. Then I got asked, we're going to have to tell the other fella that tried to kill himself that his mate's dead. And then I spoke to the psychologists at the hospital, and they said, Colin, you do it. You tell him, because it's better coming from somebody he knows.
Right.
And I was like, what? No chance. That's too hard, Then one thing led after another, and the psychologist said, I'll be sat next to you, just tell him. So we told him, and tell you what, I don't know how the police do it, but it's a very tough thing to do, to tell somebody, a friend of yours, that another friend is dead. Anyway, I'd had this conversation, and I told this story to somebody once, and I said, after all that, I'd rather swim the Manchester Ship Canal than go through that shite again. And this guy said, well, we own that. You can swim it if you want. And then that's my creativity hit, and I thought, actually, blokes aren't very good at sharing their emotions and their mental health and stuff like this. They're not very good at telling those stories. We would rather do a very blokey thing than sit down and share our feelings. Girls and women are very good at sharing their feelings, blokes aren't. So what could I do to highlight the blokiness of the situation? Oh, I know, I'll swim from Liverpool to Media City.
Wow. How many miles?
It's 33 miles.
Right, okay.
I've got plenty of time to train for it. But the whole journey is a mental health conversation in disguise. So the idea is that we're creating a documentary.
So I was going to say, you're creating a documentary, so you're planning for something in the future.
Yeah.
So you've already started filming?
Look, fat blokes float, so that's good. But I've still got to lose a little bit of weight. So, we're swimming in September 2023. I've got some of the Badger Talent Pathway students are helping design the documentary and all that. So for those that are interested, there's 5 modes of documentary making. There might be 6 actually, but there's a lot of theory behind documentary making, and you can do different styles. Digital documentary making is slightly different, and if anybody wants to talk to me about that, send them the information, email, it's fine. But we're going to create a story before the actual event happens, and during it and after it. We've roped you in.
That was my point about networking. Yeah. So you've asked me to come and DJ.
I'm going to need some help to get me through this. So I thought, why not put a DJ on the boat, play some banging tunes,
absolutely,
and we'll stream it live, from the boat and stuff like this. So there's all that sort of thing that we're going to do as well. But I mean, this is it. I've got a media production company. I might as well put it to good use.
So you're going to promote the mental health issue at the same time,
absolutely,
as someone who's going to get in shape to train for something.
So this is it. So a couple of people are going to swim a lot. So this is the creativity of it all as well that we've come up with. Is we've kind of started looking at how we can tell the story differently, and we're sort of, the lock gates fill up over a certain amount of time. Instead of having a timer for that, we're going to have a counter, and that counter represents the number of suicides at the time it's taken that lock to fill. We're going to talk about the construction of the canal, that journey, or that mental health journey, how people used to be portrayed mentally in the 1800s when it was being built, versus how we look at mental health. So there's a whole documentary story to go on, creativity-wise, to tell that story. How can we tell it? Do we need to go through the usual plot line thing, or can we do it as a connected thing where the audience at home, whilst I'm training for it, are telling me their stories and sharing and all that kind of thing? So there's a whole different way of doing things. The object-based media stuff, when we went out to Korea and filmed that, we disrupt the art gallery process of looking at content. So there's lots of little things that we've learned in the past that potentially we can take to this. So,
brilliant.
And people are going to swim a little bit with me as well. I've invited a few people to swim alongside me, and the narrative there is you're never really alone on your mental health journey. There's always somebody with you. You might not see them. They might be beside you. They might be behind you, but there's always somebody around. And when I get out at the other end, the idea is, would I still rather swim the Manchester Ship Canal than talk about my mental health? Is it easy? Is it, as a bloke, is it still easier for me to do the stupid thing, which is swim through all that shite, than actually sit down and talk to you about how I feel about having to tell my friend that his other friend had died?
Great. Well, we'll look for it. I think that's a very, very noble thing to do, and you should be applauded for it.
Noble's not the word.
Which charities will you be supporting?
We don't know. So it's
okay.
We're still in the planning phase.
So it's in the planning phase, yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
But I hope you got like 90 odd people watching this. And then there's the people here, and I'll be glad to share it, and obviously I'm supporting it by DJing. I'm not sure you can DJ and swim, but if there's a way of doing it, I'm sure I've put the idea in your head now, haven't I? Yeah. Oh.
So if anybody's got an idea of how to make some waterproof decks, you could do it off some phones. You could DJ off your iPhone whilst you do the backstroke.
Well, Colin, listen, thank you so much for joining us on this Creative Future session. It's been great talking to you. Thanks to Katie, to Chloe, to everyone else from Bajan Coombs. I hope you've all enjoyed this session, and we'll see you next time for more Creative Futures. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.